and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Denise Collison with SHI International, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDOIQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Justin Marsico, CDO and Deputy Assistant Commissioner of the Bureau of Fiscal Service. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, thanks for having me, Denise.
Yeah, so happy to talk to you again. So how do public entities transform? How do they get on this journey and stay on this journey and get to this modern place where they can really use data in a very meaningful way and make it accessible with a budget? You know, they're on a budget. Sometimes that budget is super, super tight. So how do they do this work if they don't necessarily have all the money?
I think the most important place to start, for any organization is articulating what goal you're trying to solve with data. I talked about in the beginning of having a data-driven organization. Yeah. But even then, someone can come back and ask the question, well, what's the real purpose of that? And I think the final answer to this question is that it needs to be one of three things. Either you're trying to deliver better services to your customers or to your constituents, you're trying to save money for your organization, or you're trying to reduce the risk of something bad happening to your organization or that involves your organization. And so the reason I mention this is that I think it's important not just to think about I need a fantastic cloud-based data environment, and the bill for that is going to be $10 million.
Right.
Here, boss. Here's why this is an important investment to make. Instead of starting with that, I think it's important to step back and say, how are we going to save this organization money by being data-driven? How are we going to deliver better value for our customers by being data-driven? And I think actually, if you approach it from that perspective, it is actually easy to save money. If you're a legacy organization that is reliant on, let's say, a couple of different mainframe implementations, you can probably save a lot of money by moving to a cloud-based environment. So I think if you start with the goal of trying to be more efficient with the resources that you have, you can produce a roadmap that gets you better technology, and that saves you money. It may not be in the first couple of years, but definitely, in the out years.
So it sounds like I was asking the question from a very narrow point of view: modernize data, like modernize your data stack, transform. Your answer is a very holistic approach, though. It's not super narrow. You've got to think about it in terms of the entire organization. At least that's what I'm hearing you say. And if you do that, then you could potentially be saving money in various other areas like IT budget and administration, or just even soft costs like hours spent doing a task or something like that. Do I kind of have that right? Like a holistic approach?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the benefits that's there for the taking while you're modernizing. And if you're really intentional about trying to be more efficient with your resources, then you can harvest that benefit. But if you're just focused on if your focus just stays on something like building your new analytics environment, then one of the steps on your roadmap isn't going to be sunsetting the old environment. So you want to make sure that you're designing your architecture to actually be more efficient.
Very cool. I love that. Thank you. All right. So what are your thoughts on the future of digital transformation, and where do you see Fiscal going? I know you said you're on this journey of moving your data sets to the cloud, but what's even beyond that? Do you have ideas?
Yeah, we're trying to, the focus that we have within the organization over the last year has been to come up with a proof of concept for using data more effectively with a cloud-based data solution. So what we've been doing over the last year is partnering with our CFO office, who has a need for more current information on our own finances, like the operations of the fiscal service. So we've been working together on how to more quickly deliver the data that they need to make decisions about our own organization, making that data more reliable, more current. And then really a very important point for that office, you mentioned just a minute ago, which is today, in order to produce the reports that they need to understand our own finances, it takes a lot of people, a lot of time to get there. And so we're trying to automate a lot of that work, both to save the analysts time so that they can focus on higher value things than just moving data around in Excel with macros and so on. And so we can get the data to the decision makers faster, because a lot of this stuff is being automated.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been working on in the interim year. And right now we're focused on identifying some use cases that are important for us related to our own workforce, making sure that we can understand our expenses related to payroll and like do a better job projecting those. So these are not use cases that are hugely reliant on advanced analytics,
right?
But they are areas where we can really add value and make a difference for leadership and decision makers. And so that's like been the big focus for us recently.
That's really neat. I think probably a lot of companies are trying to do some analysis on employee anything right now, right? Because of what happened during COVID and the talent pool and all the labor market stuff. And so I think that's really an interesting perspective that you're turning the eye inward and using data to help you make better decisions internally for your own agency. I think that's a really good point. I think a lot of times, again, just from a non-data person, you think about companies using data to increase sales or increase profits, or like, you were saying before. So to think about fiscal using the data to make fiscal better, which then impacts everyone really in the country, I think that's a really neat thing. All right, last question. And this one's a little bit personal. What does it mean to you to be able to impact people's lives through data? I mean, you have a pretty big job there at Fiscal. Fiscal is a really important agency within the country. So I'm just curious to know, like, what does it mean to you to be in that type of role where you're really making a difference?
Well, I mean, I can say for all the people who work at Fiscal, one of the things that we take very, very seriously is making sure that when people are interacting with the federal government, citizens, Americans interacting with the federal government, and it involves finance, that is something that is effectively a good experience for them. We want the experience to be modern and seamless and secure. And that experience could be anything from getting a stimulus payment that is COVID or American Rescue Plan related, or just getting their Social Security or disability payment in a timely, predictable manner. So that's the culture, I think, that pervades the Fiscal Service and is really, really important across our organization. Is just making sure that all of those, all of the money moves where it needs to move in a very predictable, regular manner. I mentioned this before, but it's very important to me within my own portfolio. One of the things that we've seen, not just in the United States, but across the world, is the decline in trust in institutions and also in governments. And I think that it's something where we can all challenge ourselves to start with that premise and to figure out how to deliver better services. And, my own part here, I'll just say again, is trying to think about how to do a better job telling the public what happen to the trillions of dollars that that they provided. So we have a couple of different ways of doing that. USAspending.gov is a place where you can go and search for any grant, any award, any contract that any federal agency has, and hopefully have a good experience doing that. Not just get the information, but also get the context that you need to understand it and to feel like, I just feel proud to have this resource available. And, talking with other people from different countries, it's not common. It is not the norm for a country to disclose, to the penny, all of the contract awards that it has made. So I think that's something really to be proud of, and that Americans should know about, and hopefully have a sense of, belonging or ownership as a result.
Yeah, I know it's funny, as you were talking, I was thinking about how how these types of things can really help to build trust with constituents. And then you mentioned it. And I just wanted to say, just me talking to you, and I'm pretty sure I said this to you the last time I talked to you, that me talking to you helps me feel so good about being an American citizen, and it's building my trust. And just knowing that you and your team are out there doing these types of things, putting these resources out there, really wanting us to know what's happening and engage with that. That's a really big thing. And so I was really happy to hear you use the words that you are proud of that work, because it's really amazing work. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Denise.
I really love it. So I want to thank you, Justin, for joining me today. And what a great conversation. I always learn from you, like every time I learn something new. So thank you for that. And for everyone else out there, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.